Alien's Music of the Spears just may be the most quintessentially 90s Alien comic to ever exist, with a plot centered around rock and roll music, ninjas, and glorious, over-the-top violence. It also introduced us to a xenomorph character named Mozart, captured and exploited for use of its vocals in an experimental musical opus. Released in 1994 to be exact, as part of a 4-issue run, the story of Music of the Spears takes place in the years after the Earth War, where a composer named Damon Eddington listens to audio archives from the war. The sounds of the screeching, hissing, and other unique noises from the xenomorph captures his attention. He believes it to be the perfect new sound that he's looking for, and would revolutionize music as we know it. The only problem, the archived audio simply isn't sufficient for his musical vision, Symphony of Hate. He needs a live performer, at any cost. He deals with the corporation of his employ, SynSound, to realize his supposed masterpiece. The project is agreed to have potential, and SynSound pulls some shady maneuvers to acquire a specimen, enlisting the aid of Lethal Ninja Force to steal specimen from MedTech, a competitor. This is a ruthless company, with a monopoly over just about every remaining piece of music on Earth, so you could imagine the YouTube copyright claims. With all the pieces in place, the final missing element into bringing Eddington's xenomorph musical prodigy to life was a human host. While initially hesitant to sacrifice a human life for his art, Eddington is surprised to learn a former musical collaborator, Ken Petrillo, was very enthusiastic about contributing to the project by way of serving as the host of the alien. Even in the years after the war, poor souls still believed the aliens to be holy figures and worshipped them, and Petrillo was one of these cultists. He was also a drug-addicted vagrant, and nobody would be asking any questions of his disappearance. It was agreed, and fitting enough, that at least the xenomorph bred for music would have a host with a musical background. Petrillo was impregnated by the facehugger, the embryo grew normally, and the alien ripped out of its host's ribcage as he vomited up blood, and finally the beast was freed in a gory display. The newly born creature immediately began feeding on the remains of its expired host, as Damon Eddington looked on with pride. Yes, eat and grow big and strong, my little prodigy. My little Mozart. It is the right name. So young, so talented, and with such an appetite. Aside from the unique aspect of being bred for his musical abilities, Mozart is notable also for his insight into the Xenomorph Diet. Previously on the channel I asked, do xenomorphs eat, and spoke briefly of Mozart as an example. This particular xenomorph is a very good example of showing not only if xenomorphs eat, but what they eat. It's pretty firmly established at the very least that they're meat-eaters, and Mozart is depicting eating many different animals. When he's observed eating away at his host, it's apparent that the creature will need to be fed. But Mozart's diet also serves another purpose. Eddington serves it raw chickens, a stray cat, a bull, even a panther taken from the zoo. Though the mad composer doesn't do this for the sake of interest in its diet, specifically, but instead discovers the better the challenge brought on by the prey, the better the xenomorph shrieks would sound for Eddington's composition. More vagrants and addicts are rounded up, drugged up and brought to the lab where they are locked in with Mozart, armed only with electrostun rifles, adjusted to make it impossible to kill the specimen, but still inflict a great deal of pain. The results are pleasing to Eddington, as he observes the victims fight for survival and the noise provoked by Mozart in the process. The shock rocks Mozart, and from his fanged mouth issues a cry of pain. In it is the torment of 100 men wounded in war, cursing lead and steel. The agony of 1,000 women made childless by plague, shrieking at fate, the fury of 1,000,000 souls blazing in hell, screaming at God. It is the most glorious sound Damon Eddington has ever heard, and he will hear it again, over, and over, and over, until he has enough. But the more Damon hears, the more he fears that he will never have enough. This proves a tragically accurate statement, as these recordings still just aren't enough for Eddington. He proceeds to take his drastic measures even further, falling into a madness and obsession akin to the xenomorph-worshipping cultists themselves. As you can imagine, this does not end well for Eddington. Mozart escapes, brutally killing him, and making way to a nearby SynSound concert headlined by their android band, the Helltones. Concurrently, MedTech has been on the hunt for their missing specimen, finding evidence at SynSound's labs. They track the xenomorph to the concert, but not before it is crashed by the xenomorph, and his masterpiece of massacre ensues. He begins by setting his sights on the android band, who are clad in some very familiar attire. He viciously tears the band apart, hurtling limbs and body parts into the sea of cheering fans. They all think it's for show, a classic rock and roll spectacle, and they go wild. Mozart even screams straight into the microphone, furthering the crowd's belief that it is all staged. They scream for more. It is when Mozart jumps into the crowd that they suddenly realize this is very real. Mozart rips and claws away at anyone in his sight, still shrieking all the while. As bodies continue to spill on the blood-soaked floor, a panic breaks out as everyone tries to evacuate the venue. It's then when MedTech's security team rushes in, firing into the crowd to get a shot at Mozart, leading to further casualties. The bullets didn't have much effect on Mozart. None of the gunfire could bring down the vicious beast as he continued to kill everything in his path. Finally, an explosive was used. The resulting blast led to a giant spray of blood falling on the audience left behind. Mozart is still able to perform his final notes. While Mozart's blood splashes acid on the flesh of those nearby, his scream plunges a sound just as acidic into the ears of all who hear. Now that is a true rock and roll death. Alien's Music of the Spears, with its outlandish and over-the-top ways, may not be an Alien story for everyone, but I think it brings in a concept that's worth exploring. A musician tries to harness the vocals of a xenomorph. It's definitely unique. And at its core, really what it is a good mad scientist story. The details are different, but the obsession and madness is the same, and it has the distinct mad scientist kind of feel to it. It's definitely a story worth exploring further. I'd like to talk about it in more detail, going into the future, going beyond the Earth War. But for all of its elements, most importantly of all, Music of the Spears brought us the xenomorph Mozart, and I think in this story we learn a lot from this creature, and the xenomorph as a whole. While a lot of Mozart's traits are projected from Eddington, this is still an alien with a personality, with a namesake, a true standout, and if you've been unfamiliar with Mozart, now you know your xenomorph. Thank you guys very much for watching today, I really appreciate it, and if you enjoyed the video, please make sure to give it a like. You can also subscribe for all the latest videos from the channel. I'd like to give out a very, very special thanks to the WEYLAND YUTANI executives of Patreon, EmYarUk and Lady Anne. They're part of our Patreon Hive, and if you'd like to join and support the Hive, check out my Patreon page for exclusive posts and contests. In the meantime, you can catch up with Alien Theory over social media. Follow at @alien_theory on Twitter and at @alientheoryyt on Facebook and Instagram for more. And until next time, this is Alien Theory, signing off.